In mythology, the archetype of the sage typically appears as a magician, sorceress, wise old man, witch, or wise old woman. These magical characters reflect the sage's ability to manifest your heart's desires in the world. But first, you have to see through the veil of illusion and grasp the truth of reality. The sage knows the truth because you feel it. Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another video on the Archetypes Explained series, and in this video we're going to discuss the Sage archetype. Now, archetypes are energies that shape our personality and form us how to interact with the world. And because the Sage is your inner knowing, this is an archetype you really want to develop. And when your powers of self-awareness and inner knowing are sharpened, you know exactly what you need to do to create the life you want. The sage is in tune with the subtle energies of the universe and understands the creative power of the mind. But this energy also enables you to recognize the need to take control of your emotions in order to maintain clarity of mind. Because emotions can cloud your judgment, sometimes you have to recognize when the head has to rule the heart. The heart can be impatient. The sage knows that some things take time. But as a sorceress, this energy can be equally capable of ignorance, arrogance, and delusion. This happens when you construct ideals you believe you are meant to live by, and thus ignore your natural instincts. In this scenario, rather than having control of your emotions, you repress them. And that causes all manner of problems in your life. But I will discuss this aspect of the sage in the next video when we take a closer look at the unhealthy qualities of this archetype. So stay tuned for that one by hitting the subscribe button on this video now. But for now, let's concentrate on the healthy qualities of the sage. This energy is your inner wisdom. When the sage is developed, you are able to see beyond the superficial and trivial opinions that most people speak about in the mundane world. You have the capacity and the willingness to dig down into the deeper depths of a topic or issue. And you see straight through the propaganda of political rhetoric and mainstream media. You also see straight through superficial people and know not to waste your time engaging in debates which people that are blinded by the veil of illusion get themselves into. You have lifted the veil and recognize you have the power to create your reality by working from a love-based center rather than a position of fear our so-called leaders like to propagate. But what stands the developed sage apart from the awakened sage is that you're able to reason with both logic and intuition. This is how you develop and acquire inner knowing. This is how the sage informs your view of the world and guides you to what you need to do when you need to do it. Now, this inner knowing business is important to understand, so if you'll indulge me for a minute, I'll explain. The inner knowing of the sage is not the same as intuition that belongs to the caretaker or the explorer. Intuition is something you suspect but can't confirm. At this point, your access to infinite wisdom is still fractured, so you're not fully present to the truth. When I have an intuitive thought or feeling, I sense something is not quite right. I just don't know where something fits, but I'm not 100% sure where it does or doesn't fit either. But when the energy of the sage does surface, I know it's the truth because I feel it. I just want to caveat that for a moment though, because that statement is not precisely true in every case. You need to be consciously aware of what your feeling means in relation to the thought you're having in that precise moment. I'll give you a personal example. So the first time I went to Amsterdam in 2001, I was with a group of friends and we were in a bar and they were all talking around the pool table, and for me it was chaotic. So I left the group and went and sat on my own in the corner. And I was looking out of the window at the lights shimmering on the surface of this canal, and it was absolutely beautiful. It was so serene and peaceful that I thought, I could live here. Now at that precise moment I felt this surge of energy flow through me. A feeling of calm washed over me, and my body and mind became so light and clear that it felt as though all the stress and chaos of life had drained away and disappeared. And no, I'd not been smoking anything at that point. We'd travelled during the day, and this was only about 7, maybe 8 at the latest in the evening, so I'd only had a few beers. So there was no psychoactive substances that was influencing my state of consciousness. But at that time in my life I was completely ignorant to the concept of consciousness and bioenergy, so of course I didn't realise what that moment had informed me until over a decade later. I did actually go to live in Amsterdam, but 4 years after that initial experience. But even then, I didn't realise why or what lesson I was supposed to learn during that period of my life. I didn't learn my lesson, to be honest. But nevertheless, the energy I experienced that night in that bar was the energy of the sage guiding my life in the direction it was supposed to go. So the point I want to make here is that you need to be consciously aware when and why the energy of the sage surfaces. Because when you feel inner knowing, you can make decisions with confidence and move forward in your life with purpose. Another good example of inner knowing is when you have a pure moment of inspiration. You know these moments when an idea flashes into your mind and you suddenly know what to do. Or if you're working on a complex problem and the idea suddenly flashes into your conscious awareness, but then it often disintegrates. So we see this concept in Greek mythology when Athena, the goddess of wisdom, leaps from the head of Zeus, fully grown and fully armoured. Now when you feel this inner knowing, you are able to act with conviction, faith and confidence because you know you are protected by your superconscious, which is symbolised by Athena in full armour. You also know that you can move forward with purpose because you have been touched by pure wisdom, symbolised by Athena being born fully matured, fully developed. This is why she is the goddess of wisdom. Wisdom is an eternal truth. Moreover, blessed with inner wisdom, your convictions are grounded in realism rather than idealism. Now, idealism is an unhealthy aspect of the sage archetype. Now, it can also be the case that realism for the developed sage may appear irrational to some people, even to you if you're in the process of developing this energy. But a lot of people have a story of doing something that might have seemed wild or irrational at the time, but they felt pulled towards this something. They felt compelled to take a certain action, and the lesson they learned was valuable. They earned success by following their convictions. You probably have one of these stories yourself. Now your subconscious knows what you need to do and will sometimes just push you into a situation despite your ego and everyone around you telling you that you're mad. But in the moments where you intuitively sense you need to do something or you feel an urge that seems to be the right thing to do, it's probably the right thing to do. In his book, The Power of the Subconscious Mind, Dr. Joseph Murphy writes, within your subconscious depths. When he says subconscious here, he's also referring to the superconscious. In psychology, subconscious and superconscious are kind of classed as one thing. But Murphy says, within your subconscious depths lie infinite wisdom, infinite power. It waits for you to give it development and expression. If you begin now to recognise the potentialities of your deeper mind, they will take form in the world. So let the sage help you. Listen for the wisdom of this archetype, and if it seems irrational, give it deeper contemplation. Reason with it. Reason is one of the gifts the sage gives you. Pythagoreans held the ability to reason in high regard. They said, It's the highest aspect of the soul that is able to participate in divine nature. Divine nature is what gives you the inner knowing. Let me just unpack all this spiritual parlance for a little bit, because all this talk about divine nature and souls can be pretty confusing. So the soul is your personal energy system and contains all the information you have acquired in this life. You can also call the soul the subconscious mind. Every experience you have in life contributes to the subconscious mind. But the soul is typically a fragment of divine nature that the Pythagoreans mention. It's also known as universal intelligence, or God, or the source. There are many names for it, but we're all part of this same source of energy and can access infinite wisdom that is available to us. In fact, we do every time we act out our instincts and impulses, but sometimes we don't act because the intellect, the ego, gets in the way. Thus, we have the battle between instinct and intellect, symbolised in mythology by the fight between gods and demons, or heroes and dragons, etc. It is the intellect that dismembers us from our pure consciousness and splits us off from our true nature, from our infinite wisdom. We therefore become deluded, arrogant, obstinate and maladjusted. Now, Jeremy Griffith explains how the evolution of the intellect is the cause for much of mankind's upset and misery in the current era. Now, in his book Freedom, the End of the Human Condition, he writes about the intellect like this. Intellect becomes the mental process of repression. We can understand now why it is so difficult to change a neurotic's idea with facts, reasoning, or even counselling. So developing the powers of the sage brings you into touch with the faultless wisdom of pure consciousness, and subsequently out of the delusion, upset and poor decision making that we are all culpable of when we listen to an uninformed ego or an underdeveloped ego. Now, if you are mindful and receptive to pure wisdom coming into conscious awareness, it gives you the courage and the conviction to act and create the life that you desire. Now, the more that you develop your sage archetype, the more attuned you are to this energy, and the more comfortable you are following the instruction of your superconscious. In most cases, the ego prevents you from moving forward because the ego has a fear of the unknown. So the inner knowing of the sage is fundamental to trusting yourself to make the right choices, and it also helps you to trust in the process of life. So that's basically how to recognise and utilise sage energy. So how well developed is your sage? Let's take a closer look at that. If you value authenticity and honesty in people, love delving into intellectual conversation and want to be inspired, you have the healthy qualities of the sage. If you're a deep thinker, discerning and have the gift of foresight, this also is sage energy. If you're tolerant of other people's opinions, even if you don't totally agree with them, you have a developed sage archetype. So if that sounds like you can trust your inner knowing and move forward with confidence and purpose. Okay guys, I'm going to park the sage there for now, but I trust you found this introductory part of the sage informative and hopefully recognise some of the constructive attributes this energy brings to you. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel by hitting the notification buttons below. It prompts the YouTube algorithm to promote the content and it helps us to reach more people. I'm Richard Oldale and you have been watching Mastermind content. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.